is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Handoff, Elliott plowing to the goal line. Barry, sacked by Moore. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Heckma Harrison, Rob Phillips, and Kyle Yeomans.
It's another edition of Talkin Cowboys this 2021 offseason, presented by Geico, live and in person from inside the SWBC Mortgage Studios, except for, we're not all live and in person, because one of us is, just virtual again. Hey, Isaiah, you're looking great down there. You're looking nice and sunny, and you look fantastic. Look at that, freshly shaved. I mean, what are you doing? Where are you at?
Yeah. Man, it's just a little family vacation, just taking the family out. They just got out of school. We got the season coming up. So I'm just, a quick little getaway so I can go ahead and recalibrate and get ready to get back to it.
I'm impressed. If I were doing that, I would not be doing the show today.
That's dedication.
Yeah, I would see you guys next Monday.
That's dedication right there.
You know what? Like Bane said, we're here for the people.
Oh, God.
Why was that the reference? Why did we have to go straight to Bane?
The people.
We're here for the people.
We gotta have one a show at least.
Yeah, it's fair. Maybe not a Batman villain reference, but hey, we appreciate your dedication. And how about that for the listeners at home? You get to still hear Isaiah Stanback, even though he's a little distant. We still have him in our hearts here at Talkin Cowboys, but. Outside of Isaiah Stanback, we've got Rob Phillips, Heckma Harrison. I'm Kyle Yeomans driving the bus here for the next hour as OTAs begin today here from the Star in Frisco. Now, we don't necessarily get a chance to watch any of these OTAs, at least today, because media availability is tomorrow, and it's raining outside here in Frisco, so there's no real look at the Cowboys team anyways. So OTAs on the horizon. We're going to kind of preview exactly. Hey, there's a good live look in outside. Great job, Chris Beam and Scott Purcell. For those of you watching. Yeah, there's the Tostitos Championship Plaza as it is rainy and stormy, nasty outside. But inside, we get to talk about OTAs, and we're going to preview it coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But first, I wanted to ask you guys a question. I was asked this the other day on the Blitz, and it was a very interesting question to me. Caden Gates came up with the question, and ultimately it's who has the most pressure. And we talked about offense and defense last week, right? And we talked about how there's different types of pressure on both of those sides of the football. But who has the most pressure from a coordinator standpoint? Dan Quinn or Kellen Moore? Kellen Moore entering his third year. Dan Quinn, of course, in his first year as the defensive coordinator. Different types of pressure, certainly. But, Rob, if you had to put your finger on it and you had to select one of the two who has more pressure to succeed heading into, this upcoming offseason, this upcoming training camp, then preseason, then the season, who would you put it on?
Dan Quinn.
Easy?
Easy. Dan Quinn. And not that he's on the hot seat, but look, he's coming into a situation where, hey, this was the problem with the team last year. We're bringing you in because this has to get fixed if we're going to take it to the next level. So, and he's here, by the way, because he's got a great track record, great resume, but he's coming in to a situation where he's got to Kellen Moore doesn't have to change his scheme, doesn't have to introduce his scheme to anybody. He's just got to fine-tune things, and there are things that they've got to improve on offensively, no question about that. But Dan Quinn starting from scratch in Dallas with a lot of young players and a lot to sort out in terms of lineup and get everybody on the same page in these OTAs and training camp. That's what didn't happen last year, so he's got to do that here.
Heckma?
So, hi, I'm Captain Obvious. Obviously, Dan Quinn, for sure, already comes in on the hot seat. He sees his predecessor one and done, and he has to do something. And he realizes historically bad defense, yada, yada, yada. You got to right the ship. Right, but if you want to talk about someone that should feel a little bit of pressure, I would say it's Kellen Moore as well. I mean, even though the offense was middle of the road, 14th in the league, still he realizes with all the built-in excuses from offensive line to Dak going down, that if he had all of his horses in his stable, that they would definitely I'm just going to say top 10, top 5 offense, and maybe that could have catapulted you to a playoff run. But yes, obviously it's Dan Quinn because of all the things that he has to fix, but doesn't mean that Kellen Moore doesn't have a little bit of heat on his back pockets as well.
So I'm going to let Isaiah answer first, and then I'm going to tell Heckman why that's a coward answer. Isaiah, what do you think? Is it Dan Quinn or Kellen Moore in terms of the total pressure that's on them?
Heckman's not pleased with that comment. You're not pleased with that comment.
I can't. Unfortunately, I can't see my boys' faces more, but I know Heckman probably gave him the. Man, what?
It's all good.
He's not happy.
I know Heck.
Yeah.
I know Heck. But no, the obvious. I'm gonna double back on what my guy Heck said on the Captain Obvious. But for 3 reasons. Dan Quinn, number 1, is coming in and he's expected to be Fix-It Felix, right? So he's coming in from a historically bad defense. Not only does the historically bad defense come in on his shoulders, but he also has a history of being successful. So people are expecting the Legion of Boom to be present now here in Dallas. They're expecting that same type of energy, that same type of vibe. So that's the expectation of his history, both here in Dallas and also coming from Seattle and Atlanta. Number 2, he has to come in and create a culture. Right? There was no culture on that side of the ball. So he is going to be tasked with creating a culture. And then number 3, he has to not only bring the guys that were already on the roster, but he also is bringing some of his previous guys. Oh, and by the way, let's add some rookies in there. So the onboarding process and the stress of all that together obviously makes him the number 1 choice in terms of who has the most stressful job coming in.
So this is why I asked that question, because I had a feeling that the easy answer was going to be Dan Quinn, and I was hoping that Heckman would also go with Dan Quinn, but he kind of went with both of them at the same time. But anyway,
I didn't think it was a coward answer.
You said Dan Quinn. It was just kind of, you said Dan Quinn, but both basically is why I thought it was a coward answer. I wanted you to go one way or the other. Is it Dan Quinn specifically?
What did you say, Isaiah?
It sounds like Kyle's trying to tell the people that you're playing it safe, sir.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I want you to choose a side, and I want you to be 100% certain.
I mean, it's heat on both of them. What are you talking about? You go 6-10, you don't have the success that you want. Your offense is abysmal also with your defense. They get all of the heat on them because they're historically bad, but because of the quarterback carousel and your offense being dysfunctional, just put them both in the pot. One person doesn't miss heat over another one, Kyle.
Okay.
So don't start no SH, won't be no IT this morning.
No, that's fair. Okay, so basically, the reason why I asked this question is because the easy answer is always going to be Dan Quinn, right? I mean, it is. He's got the fix-it Felix, like Isaiah said. He's got that mentality of having to come in. And I don't know if the Legion of Boom is the expectation. That's surely the goal. We would love for that to happen. I don't know if that's the expectation. I think the real answer is Kellen Moore here. And the reason why, and I wanted you to kind of switch it up a little bit, and you put out the number of 14th in the league. You can't do that again if you're Kellen Moore, right?
Nope.
Cannot do that again. If this defense is not necessarily the same as what it was in 2020, if it's a little bit better, then I think you're fine. But it doesn't have to go from 32nd, or I guess 28th is what it ultimately was defensively. It doesn't have to go from 28th to 3rd. It has to go from 28th to probably 15th, 16th, 17th
somewhere
for you to be
around
a competitive team.
Right.
But why is that though, Kyle?
Because it's a multi-year project. And that's my question is, who has more pressure in 2021? Dan Quinn has a multi-year project on his hand. Kellen Moore has been handed the keys to a Ferrari where all of the tools, all of the weapons are all there. They're all ready to roll. And if he doesn't succeed, I think it's more on the offensive coordinator than it is on the defensive coordinator, Isaiah.
See, Kyle, I don't know if I can get down with you on that. I'm as they say, the white man can't jump. I'm hearing you, but I don't know if I'm listening to you on that one. See, and the reason
you're not listening to Jimmy. You're here, Jimmy, but you're not listening.
You're not listening to Jimmy. You hear, but you're not. And the reason why we say that our defense doesn't.
What a great movie.
The reason why we say our defense doesn't need to make these huge strides is because of our expectation of greatness on our offense. That's the reason why we say our defense doesn't have to go from 28th up to the top 10. If our offense wasn't what it is already, and our expectation is what it is already for our offense, we would be saying, okay, we need our defense to go from 28th to top 10. But we're not, because we have an expectation of greatness on that side of the ball.
And look, before Dak Prescott went down, even with Tyron Smith out, they were averaging well over 30 points through 5 games.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, is it perfect?
Had to, though.
It's not. Yeah, they had to. And by the way, like that what was it? Were they 1-4, 2-3 start? 2-3 start?
Almost 1-4.
Don't put that all on the defense because Zeke was fumbling the ball. Dak was fumbling the ball. There were some picks. There were some mistakes that were handing the ball back to the opponents and making things harder on the defense here. But they showed they could pile up yards and points. They need to get off to better starts. They need to stay healthy, and they need to be better in the red zone. Red zone has been a problem for really as long as Kellen Moore's been here. And I know, he kind of chuckles about it when he gets asked about it. Sometimes it's a situation. There's different reasons why it doesn't work, but I think they were 28th in red zone efficiency last year, scoring touchdowns at like 50%.
But who has more built-in excuses? I mean, for as far as guys
defense,
going down,
for sure.
The defense,
right? And so you look at the defense and you say, all right, well, Dan Quinn, you got things that you have to fix wholesale. For the offense, you get Dak back, you get your tackles back, you solidify the swing tackle position. You're cooking with Crisco.
Yeah.
And so, you talk about numbers. Last year coming into 2020, all we were talking about is the numbers that Dak put in the previous season and why that didn't equate to a playoff. All right. So is it the good offense beats bad defense anytime? Good offense. Which one do you prefer? Good offense, good defense? Which one is going to win you a championship? And I think in the NFL today, everyone would side with a good offense. And I think we've shown that we have that, especially with the points and the yards that we've put up.
See, and that's kind of my point here is, yes, the offense was to blame for the first 5 games prior to Dak going down, and then after that, injuries kind of snowballed into the season that was, but it had the numbers. This offense was there. And I was questioned on the chat a moment ago, says, when has this offense ever been a Ferrari? You just look around. I mean, you have Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. That's good enough to be a Ferrari. And then if your offensive line is healthy, you can add to it. And so that's the nitrous to the Ferrari, I guess, if we're going to stick with the metaphor.
Fast and Furious.
You have the right tools.
Well-run movies.
Yeah, right. You have the right tools. You need the right driver. And I'm not necessarily convinced that through 2 seasons, Kellen Moore has shown, hey, I'm the guy that can make this thing go no matter what happens. Because once Dak went down, sure, expectations change, but there was a lot of struggle on that side of the football for a long time. Not only a struggle for numbers, but a struggle for creativity, a struggle for rhythm. Anything you needed Kellen Moore to find as the offensive coordinator wasn't necessarily there and wasn't consistent. And so that's why I say the pressure's not on him. He's not safe by any means. Neither is Dan Quinn. We've already seen that the Cowboys can replace after a year of a defensive coordinator.
Safe.
Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think either one of these guys are going to go anywhere.
I think they're safe. I think they're both very safe.
You think so?
Yeah, I do.
They're safe.
Why is that?
Go ahead, Isaiah.
No, I mean, I was questioning the usage. I know he has a huge vocabulary, but the word safe right there, I was kind of questioning it because both of these guys are locked in, loaded for at least a couple years. Dan Quinn's obviously, he can come in and he can have the worst defense in the league, and he's still going to be there the following season. You start looking at, on the other side of the ball, and we're going to, yeah, absolutely.
We said that about Mike Nolan last year, I'm pretty sure.
No. Nobody ever said that about Mike Nolan.
Okay.
Mike Nolan was expected to come in and contribute and try to turn this thing around. But I don't think when you compare the expectation levels of Quinn and Nolan, I don't even think they're in the same ballpark. I just honestly, I really don't. And then, Mike Nolan didn't bring his whole defense with him either, seemingly. So I think that the expectation of Quinn, I think they're both locked in. But Quinn has a lot on him, and I don't disagree with you. In terms of on the offensive side of the ball, that he has a lot of pressure on him as well. But if you think about it, how many games have we had with an experienced CeeDee Lamb, a healthy offensive line, and our full 3 wide receivers and Dak Prescott all healthy at the same time? Yeah. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened. We haven't seen it. So that's why I say that there's less pressure on that side because guess what? No matter, you could hand the ball off to either one of those guys and somebody's going to shoot. You can hand it off to Lyle Collins and he's going to do something with the ball. As long as we have a healthy offense, we're going to be good.
You remember when in 2016 when there's a party out there, Isaiah.
You get that bumping. Oh, goodness.
Do you remember in 2016 at training camp when Romo got hurt and there was a press conference and they were asking the Joneses what to do now at quarterback? And would they be interested in Nick Foles possibly? And Kellen Moore, Jerry had the famous line, "We like Moore. We like Moore."
Yeah.
And it turned out they also liked Dak Prescott because that's what happened.
Sure.
Moore got hurt a few days later and then became the Dak Prescott show, and the rest is history. But they love Kellen Moore now. They don't just like him. They love him. Mm-hmm. I think you talk about bright offensive minds around the league who's trying to find the next Sean McVay. They think he's got that type of ability. So I don't think he's going anywhere in terms of play calling.
And proved it on January 2nd of this year by extending his contract.
Yes.
You know, when all of the whispers and everything was going on about him possibly moving to being the Boise head coach, they said, shut that down real quick. Let's go ahead and get this extension out because of,
that's a good point.
You know, because of what he's done in this offense. Look, guys, putting all of this together is what Kellen Moore is charged with. You know, let's put this offense together and have the rhythm that we expect. Last year, man, let's just call it a one-off with having 4 different quarterbacks starting. Yep. It's really hard to get any continuity, synergy between any of your lineups that you put in. I think if we go back over the season, maybe the Pittsburgh game, a loss, was probably the first time that we saw the offense look anything similar to an NFL offense because look, man, with DiNucci, with a lot of the other guys that were in there, they just didn't have that rhythm. So the offseason right now, OTAs is paramount for the success for both of these.
That's a great point. Like, I don't even know if we really saw how they want to play with Kellen Moore calling plays with this offense last year because they put themselves behind the 8 ball with turnovers, and they got off to your point with rhythm. They need to get off to better starts offensively. That small sample size didn't get off to good starts, but they showed they could move the ball while Dak was in there. They just turned it over, and then they become a pass-happy offense. Then, when Dak gets hurt, they have to become more of a run, take the ball air out of the ball type offense, run first. So I think there's more of a balance there that we haven't seen yet with this offense. And I'm with Heck. I'll make excuses for him. When you start 8 different offensive line combinations, Isaiah, and like 12 different overall combinations within games, I don't know how you sustain anything offensively the last 11 games of the season.
No, absolutely. I mean, the expectation last year was, you heard Mr. Jones say it himself, the level of expectation has changed, right? That has moved now after Dak got hurt. But to your point, in terms of Kellen Moore, have we had the opportunity to really see what he wants to do with this offense? I say the answer is no, because from the first game, we had guys going down. Right, we had guys going down immediately. Jarwin going down, and it's like that changes everything. Now, what the heck do we have in Schultz? Let's figure it out, right? But we haven't had any games with an experienced CeeDee Lamb, so a solid three receivers out there with experience, a healthy Jarwin, right? And we got Schultz backing him up now. All of our offensive line coming back, and Dak coming back with a vengeance. I'm excited to see what these guys are going to do, but I do not agree that he has the most pressure on him.
And with all of that, you have an Amari Cooper that has 1,100 yards receiving. You have an Ezekiel Elliott with all of his fumbles, 6 yards, 7 yards away from going over 1,000. You have CeeDee Lamb that's right on the cusp of 1,000. Gallup, all of the other guys that have contributed on this offense, even in the down year. So it's hard to say, look, Kellen Moore has to give us more. Obviously, you feel as though with getting his weapons back or getting Dak Prescott back to navigate this offense, you got to feel good about his job and what he's going to do.
Yeah, I still want more. That's my biggest thing is I want M-O-R-E from M-O-O-R-E. I want more from Kellen Moore. I want to see the creativity. I want to be able to rely on him as a play caller, as an offensive coordinator, and say, hey, whenever things go wrong, don't worry, we got Kellen Moore. He's got this. He's a creative mind. I want that kind of confidence in my offensive coordinator, and I don't have that right now. I'm not saying he's not a great young coordinator. I think he is. I think he does have tools to become.
You want an Eric Bieniemy. That's what you want.
That guy. Yes, that's what I want.
You got that guy. It is Kellen Moore.
He did a lot of cool stuff with DiNucci. in that Eagles game.
He's making fun of you.
He was doing Uncle Rico on the sideline with Ben DiNucci is what he was doing. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
What creative? Where can they be more creative?
And then that's tough because, like you said, we haven't seen a full-fledged toolbox for Kellen Moore to get creative with it. And I think it's more so of going back to whenever he didn't have those tools, whenever he didn't have the tackles. How do you find a way to make Brandon Knight and Terrence Steele successful? And I think we saw a little bit of that maybe during the 3-game win streak right at the end. But once again, who were we beating? The Cowboys were beating.
They didn't beat
Cincinnati.
A winning team
They were beating
year.
Philadelphia. Yeah, you weren't beating those big time teams. And then also creativity on the offensive scheming to stop a pass rush like Washington. If you're going to win this division, you're going to have to find a way to stop Washington's front seven. Plain and simple. I mean, you're going to have to find a way to stop them and slow them down from either getting to your quarterback or getting to your running back, who you've, by the way, invested multiple millions of dollars in that backfield. So I just need to see the creativity from Kellen Moore whenever things go wrong, because anybody can be successful when everything's going right. I need to see it whenever everything hits the fan, and Kellen Moore's got to make some different decisions.
And the odds of having your starting 5 up front ready for all 17 games.
Probably not going to happen.
Probably not going to happen. The odds are against you.
I love how you said 16 and then switched over to 17. I can't do it either. I got to do it at the same time. All right. When we come back, we've got.
I like it, Kyle.
Yeah, right. We've got some Mailbag Monday on the other side of the break. Bradley and is he going to see a little bit more playing time this year? Yeah, he is my guy, and I'm unfortunately probably going to say no. But we're going to talk about that. And the Cowboys sign a wide receiver off the free agent market. Who are they bringing to town for OTAs when we return here on Talkin Cowboys, presented by Geico?
What a tease.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man's Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
There's nothing as unique as our eyes, which is why Essilor pioneers ways to make lenses as unique as you. Verilux for super sharp vision, Essential Blue for protection, and Crizal for freedom from glare. 3 cutting-edge solutions in a single unique lens. So whatever your needs, insist on Essilor. Visit your local Essilor experts and find the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Whether you're watching from home or you're cheering in the stands with Essilor lenses, you can see every exciting play. Book an appointment at your local Essilor experts and see what Essilor can do for you. See more, do more Essilor here at Talkin Cowboys. He is showing it off in the tropical sun with those sunglasses. You brought him today, thank goodness, Isaiah, for bringing the Essilor lenses.
He's in Fiji.
There's a party out that window.
There's definitely. Hey, listen. Hey, I'm gonna be out there as soon as this show's over. You understand what I'm saying? I'll be out there.
He is talking to himself because he's in the penthouse and he's on the top floor. There's nobody out there.
Yeah, he said. Yeah, you're exactly right. He's at least 13 stories above ground. Yeah, he's doing.
Believe that.
Doing great work out there, sticking with us. Isaiah Stanback, Rob Phillips, Heckma Harrison. I'm Kyle Yeomans. We've got Mailbag Monday coming up here in a couple of moments. But an update for Cowboys roster is the Cowboys do sign a wide receiver. There's been a lot of hubbub on social media about wide receivers coming to the Cowboys, potentially coming to the Cowboys on social media. But Johnny Dixon, wide receiver who was with the Houston Texans, is coming to wide receiver.
That was the wrong J.
Wrong J. We can't really talk about it. But Johnny Dixon, 5'11" receiver.
Strong J.
200 pounds out of Ohio State. He was a tryout partner, one of the two guys to work alongside Brett Hundley last Friday. Rob, what do you know about Johnny Dixon as he comes in as a quick little camp signee?
I know that he went to Ohio State.
That's it?
That's all I know.
Okay. Well, played at Ohio State, caught 67 career passes, close to 1,200 yards, had 16 touchdowns, went undrafted in 2019, spent time with the Cardinals and the Browns this spring before signing the deal in Dallas recently. So a quick update. Not the J anybody's hoping for, but so that's fun. There's Johnny Dixon on his way, though. Let's talk about this Mailbag Monday question. And, of course, you can go read the answers from Rob and the group on DallasCowboys.com and see the entire mailbag article. But
Man,
Bradley and I,
you've been in your bag.
He has been
on your articles.
What'd I do?
You've been. That's a good reference to you have been on it, brother.
Thank you.
All right, when you hear in your bag, that's where you've been.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, my bad.
I can hear Jimmy.
That was awesome. Just that interaction was my favorite part of the show.
Reference for the day.
Appreciate that, Heck.
Goodness, I don't even know where to go from here. Is there a chance we may see Bradley and I anywhere but the bench this upcoming season? Seems like he was in high regard when he was drafted, but he never got any playing time. That was from Larry Shoemaker from Wichita Falls, Texas. Greatest place on God's green earth. Rob, you answered this question, so I'll let you start this off. Bradley and I now in a crowded room of edge rushers. Where do you see him falling at?
I don't know. It's going to be tough. I mean, I think if you just look at his measurables, and we've talked more about arm length in the last 2 weeks with football players than I ever have in my life. And that was like the big knock on him coming out. Like that and his 40 time were why he probably dropped to the 5th round, whether that's fair or not. So if you just look at his measurables, you think, well, maybe he's not a Dan Quinn type of guy. But he's got a great motor. He's got good technique. He was very productive in college. I'm surprised, guys, he didn't play last year. I don't really understand that, especially when things were going down the tubes in November and even December. So, but he's got competition. They signed Terrell Basham to kind of replace Alden Smith, and then you draft Chauncey Golston. You know, that's a Dan Quinn type of pick. So, he's not with the current regime that drafted him, and that's always tough.
Heckma?
Well, they try to make it seem like Anai has these T-Rex arms or something, man. I mean, how sharp.
Somebody wrote that.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. John Owning of Dallas Morning News. He does great work.
Work.
That's what he wrote about him when he got drafted.
He did write about it.
Tiny little T-Rex arms.
I think I DM'd him afterwards, too. And
Wow.
talked about it because Bradley's my guy.
Well, that's hard. But I will say this, as far as the competition in that room, I think, there are no Dan Quinn guys. Can you make plays? Can you get to the ball? That's all he cares about. And look, I feel like as far as the measurables are concerned, all of these guys are going to get a fair shot to plead their case for what they can do during season. A lot of it's going to come down also to special teams.
Yes.
How many of these guys can get those special teams rep? If you can't, then that's going to keep you from making the 53 and actually getting on the field. So, look, I don't look, there's so much to be made of the measurables and who's a Dan Quinn guy and who isn't. I don't believe in that. It's the same thing with Francis Bernard and him being a shorter guy in the linebacker room. Will he make an impact as well with the linebacker room being as crowded as it is? I think because his ability to get on the field and special teams, it makes him a viable option as well.
That's fair.
Isaiah?
There is a such thing as being a Dan Quinn or any other coach guy. I'll throw that out there. But it really, in terms of Dan Quinn and me understanding who he is as a coach and as a person, you could become his guy if you come in, give 100% effort, and do exactly what you're coached to do. It's real simple. Can you be somebody that he depends on? And can you be somebody that he depends on to go 100% every time you touch the field, whether that's one play or whether that's 70 plays a game? It doesn't matter. He wants you to be dependable, and that's what he's looking for. High energy, dependable guys. But it's going to be very difficult for Bradley and I to make this team. I mean, just call it is what it is. I think all the guys at that position, except for the high end guys, the D-Laws and of this world, they're all going to be rotational players. I think this defensive line is going to be a carousel. I think it's going to be guys going in and out. One play you see a guy, might be in for one play, might be in for two plays. I don't think there's going to be too many guys that are out there for 3 plays, 3 straight downs, or one series and it comes back to another series to be the starter out there. So to Heckman's point, special teams, when you're a guy like him, what can you contribute on in that third of the game? So you guys got to think about it. There's offense, there's defense, and there's special teams. But special teams, you have kickoff return, punt return, field goal block. That's what you have, right? So you have 6 different areas that you can affect the game versus just the one on defense. So when we're talking about special teams, people out there need to understand in a big way you can really earn your spot on this team.
Don't forget about Dorrance Armstrong too in that rotation, because Jerry, I was like a streak on the fan during last season. Like he would mention Dorrance Armstrong every time, and to y'all's point, he's become kind of a favorite, I think, of John Fossil on special teams.
Yeah.
So I think he's got a spot unless something happens, but it's gonna be tough. Sorry to break it to you, KY.
I know, and I think that's one of the reasons why Francis Bernard has a shot at still making the team, even though he was undrafted last year and saw minimal playing time on defense. His impact on special teams, and he played a decent amount of special teams last year.
One more thing on that though, because I'm with Isaiah. Like, I do think coaches have their guys, right? And not to say that you can't become a Dan Quinn guy, but I'm curious, like a Jordan Lewis. All we've been talking about is big, long, rangy corners. That's what Dan Quinn wants. That's what Chris Richard wanted when he was here. Yeah. So how's that going to affect a Jordan Lewis? Because he's a competitive, edgy type player. That's what they need on defense. Mm-hmm. Talk about culture, but he doesn't fit that mold. So it's kind of the same thing. What's his role going to be? I think he's going to play, but he doesn't fit the measurable side of it.
You talked about the competitiveness, the edginess, and I think that's what this team need. When Isaiah talks about Dan Quinn and his responsibility of building culture, I think you have to build it with guys like that. That's why your draft class is comprised of guys that have that competitive edginess to them, and we know Jordan Lewis is that. So you sign a guy like him to renegotiate. He gets a new deal because of what he brings to the table. I don't see him as a carryover. Sort of a guy on defense. I think what he can give you from the slot, but I don't think Jordan Lewis sees himself as a slot corner. I think he sees himself as one of the top dogs, a guy that can play on the outside as well. So, I mean, that's why OTAs is so important, just to allow these guys to compete and give their case for where they're going to be in the fall.
Yeah, and going back to Bradley and I'm looking at some of his draft stuff. I mean, he had shorter arms than the defensive tackle class that the Cowboys brought in last year and this year, and he's an edge rusher. So, I mean, it's not necessarily T-Rex arms, but 32 and an eighth is what he was measured at the Combine last year, and, I mean, that's shorter than every defensive lineman pretty much on the roster right now. I mean, as a guy that has looked at maybe – well, go for it, Isaiah.
I was going to say, I mean, I know a lot's made of the arm length, and that's always great to have if you have it. But at the end of the day, defensive ends, you're looking for explosiveness. You're either looking for extreme size and power, or you're just looking for explosiveness, right? So if you lack both, that's when you're in a kind of a pickle, right? So we obviously know that Bradley and I is not the largest man in the world in terms of for his position. So that's against him, right? Now you have to look at the explosiveness. Well, we've seen him on film get off the ball, but will we classify him as explosive? So those are the things that he needed to work on over this past season, and hopefully this offseason they'll put him in a better position to compete, because if you don't have the size, then you're just a guy. And I mean, and he can't be in that category.
He can't be. And he maybe will be one of those super benefited players from having a full offseason finally. Because last year, you think about the rookie class, didn't have that offseason. We can kind of harp on that as much as we want. At some point, it becomes a little bit of an excuse. But for a guy like Bradley and I, who needed the reps, who needed to show exactly what he had because of his explosiveness and the lack of measurables, he's a guy I think could benefit from things like OTAs and things like that this upcoming season. If he's not going to make the roster, I think it'll be one of those final cuts. He's going to play through the whole preseason. He'll be there for quite some time. I think there's a chance he does, but, man, bringing in guys like Chauncey Golston and Terrell Basham and, of course, Dorrance Armstrong already being there, Randy Gregory and his emergence, it's going to make things really tough. I mean, that was already what? I just named 5 guys outside of Bradley and I, and then you've also got Tank.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got 6 guys there as edge rushers, and usually you only, carry 6 or 7? Yeah. So he's on that borderline of making the team. I want him to make the team because I want to see what he's got, but that's something else to look for here this offseason. So we also didn't get the hit on this last week because we were so wrapped up in rookie minicamp and the excitement of finally seeing a little bit of football. But the NFL schedule is released, and for those who listen to our show exclusively, we haven't actually got to talk about the schedule.
We didn't.
A whole lot. We have the official dates now of the preseason games. It starts off with Pittsburgh in Canton, Ohio, a makeup, as I should say, of the Hall of Fame game. That was August 5th. It was scheduled for August 6th of 2020, but now we will play it on August 5th this year. That's going to be a fun one, Heckma. Steelers, Cowboys to kick off the 2021 season, hopefully in front of fans in the stands up in Canton.
Man, if it's anything like the NBA is rocking right now with fans in the stands. So I can't wait. I was watching yesterday the Knicks at the Garden. Yeah, man. I mean, they were rocking it. You see the difference that having fans in the stands make for the overall vibe and output in a basketball game. So I'm excited to see stands back in the fans in the stands again. But this team is actually getting ready. These guys are getting ready for a season, right? I mean, what you do with the Bradley and Nyes and guys like that, what are you doing against TB12 on Thursday night? That's what you got to get ready for. And so much of this is going to surround finding your playmakers, getting your guys, Tampa Bay, the Chargers, the Eagles, the Panthers, the Giants. I mean, this is what you're building your team for, and it starts right now. So whether guys like Bradley or Nye finally make the 53 and contribute, it's going to be because they are making plays in the preseason.
And there is a look at our top 5 games if you're watching this podcast, but we'll run it down. Tampa Bay, Thursday Night Football to kick off the season. Week 2, I think that's a sneaky game, and we're going to have a lot of conversations about that Chargers game Week 2 because of Week 1 being as volatile as it is on Thursday Night Football against the defending champions. I think that Week 2 game against the Chargers is going to be a pivot point coming up here in the next couple of months of talk.
How do you feel about that first game? When you saw it, what did you say? I know what Isaiah said, but what did you guys say when you saw that?
The first thing I said was, ratings they're not a problem with the Cowboys after all. You know? Remember that whole thing in December? Like, they got flexed. Yep. Nobody wants to watch the Cowboys anymore. Please. Give me Dak Prescott back on the field, and they want to watch him. Yeah, but do I feel great about that? The first team in the salary cap era to return all 22 starters on a Super Bowl team, that's not great, Bob. I don't love that. I don't love that, but I thought Mickey made a good point. It's like if you're Mike McCarthy, you do love it because you're pointing towards the champs, Week 1, prime time. We got to be ready, guys. So I think in that regard, it's good. But I'm with you on the Week 2 being sneaky because by all means, they can beat Tampa Bay. But if you were to drop that game and you're staring 0-2 in the face, going cross-country the other way again, I just go back to 2011 when the Cowboys were 0-1 going to San Francisco, and they knew what it means if you drop to 0-2. That's why Romo played with a punctured lung. That's why Witten's ribs were busted up, and they found a way to win that game. So there's a lot of weird stuff on this schedule.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It definitely is. And if you lose Week 1, you're expected to lose Week 1, right? You're playing up against the defending champion.
I don't know about that. I'm just saying if you were to lose
from a national standpoint, I don't put on a helmet, so I can say whatever I want. I don't put on a star. I don't put on a helmet.
And thank
goodness. So
Come on, Isaiah.
From a national standpoint, you're expected to lose week 1. Week 2, you're expected to turn around and win that game, but that's not necessarily an easy win by any means. With Justin Herbert, with an upstarting Chargers team, week 2, like Rob said, on the road, on the West Coast, that's a different type of game, week 2. And if you drop to 0-2, my goodness, I think you're in a little bit of trouble, even though you do return home for 3 games right after that. And I will stand on that because the Cowboys could win that game. Sure. They could win week 1, and that would be outstanding. We would party in here if the Cowboys come out with a week 1 win.
Isaiah, stand back. Say something.
Coach me up, Mr. Standback.
What just came out of Kyle's mouth. I'm trying to digest this.
Look at me.
I'm trying to digest this.
The Cowboys will lose week 1. I'm predicting it right now. It's going to happen.
Wow.
It's the defending champion. I'm not going out on a limb.
Just
it's
negative
fine.
Nancy over here.
It's fine.
I am not going to make that statement right now. But what I will make, the statement I will make is the reason why the week 1 matchup is good for the Cowboys is the same reason why it's not good for the Cowboys. And that's the amount of time that you have to prepare for your opponent. Mm-hmm. You have the most time to prepare for your week 1 opponent. That's just facts. Even when you take in the bye weeks, right? You have 3-4 weeks to prepare for your first game, and your coaches even start preparing before that. So, but for that reason, those guys would be prepared for that defense. They know they have all of last year's film to look at because all those guys are coming back. But for those same reasons, TB12 has that same amount of time to prepare for your guys, for your defense, fans out there. And obviously Quinn has some film that they can go back and watch. But the personnel and how he plans on utilizing it, gives the Cowboys a little bit of an edge. It gives them a little bit of an advantage over TB12 because for the first half, they're going to be trying to figure us out versus we're going to already know what they're doing.
Right.
For the most part. They'll always have their tweaks. But for the most part, they're going to settle into who they are versus the Cowboys. They don't know what the heck we're bringing, at least in all 3 facets of the game. So I'll say that. Week 2 matchup, dangerous. Week 3 matchup, dangerous. That first 3 weeks is strong.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it out there. That first 3 weeks is strong. I know people are going to say, oh, Philadelphia's easy. Rivalry games aren't easy. Rivalry games against, a confident Jalen Hurts and everybody else that they're adding over there receiving core-wise is dangerous. So these first, in prime time. So this first 3 weeks it's a doozy.
Look, I got to say this. When the schedule dropped and Cowboy fans automatically conceded the first game, it absolutely makes me sick.
No.
It does. It makes me sick.
No.
And
So
the
Kyle
reason
makes you sick.
No, that's my boy. I love him to death. If people think we don't like each other, but I actually love him.
People think that?
Yeah. Here's the thing. So here's what I feel for Cowboy fans that are just dropping the first game to Tampa Bay. Look, the number 1 basketball team in the nation is in New York, and they are called the Harlem Globetrotters, right? The Harlem Globetrotters, everywhere they go, they win their games, right? But they bring a team to play against with them, and it's called the Washington Generals. And right now, what you're calling the Dallas Cowboys is the Washington Generals, that we're just going to go out there and watch them raise the banner and lose. And to me, that's nutless and gutless.
Whoa! Hey there, Jason Garrett.
Whoa!
I love it. Just like that.
Just like that.
Wasn't that a JG speech?
Hey.
Not listen, gutless.
Heck, man, I'm with you, big dog. I'm with you. I honestly think the Cowboys, a healthy Cowboys. Let me lead with that. A healthy Cowboys team matches up very well against Tampa Bay.
Hey, JG had it right. JG had it right.
It is what it is. It is.
I mean, they've got an offense that can hang.
I mean, when you talk about teams, when you have a healthy Dallas Cowboys, which we should be week 1, hopefully, barring injuries in the preseason or camp, a healthy Dallas Cowboys team matches up very well against Tampa, especially under these circumstances in terms of them not knowing what we're going to do. Now, it's all depending on what Dan Quinn shows in the preseason and all that jazz. He's a veteran coach, so he knows what not to show. But how they plan to utilize their guys, Tampa Bay's going to have to try to figure that out for the first half of the game. Right? So it's going to be who can withstand the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of the game the longest. And obviously we know TB12 is capable, but It's a lot. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be an emotional game, especially with Dak coming back, Tampa Bay raising the banner. It's going to be a lot. Who is the most stout team when it comes to emotions and being able to play through the ebbs and flows?
I do like the point that Rob made, and Isaiah added on to it as well, but talking about how Mike McCarthy, through this entire offseason, and like Heckma even said a little bit earlier, you're not playing for Pittsburgh, Arizona, Houston, Jacksonville. You're playing for Tampa Bay. And every time you step out on that practice field,
Absolutely.
Mike McCarthy's going to remind them that, hey, the champs are waiting for you. The defending champs who have the target on their back. The Cowboys are usually the team franchise-wide that has had their target on their back. But now they get to be the hunter. And I like that a lot. And I think that's a great mindset to have this team ready to roll going into week 1 rather than trying to find a rhythm in week 6, 7, or 8 in the middle of what is a tough stretch of schedule into the season.
Real quick, I mentioned some weird stuff on the schedule. It's the first time since 2012 they start a season with 2 straight road games. Only the third time since 2012 they'll start and finish the season on the road. And then you go into December, January, it's 4 of 6 away from AT&T Stadium. You got 3 straight road games in there. You also have 3 straight home games. It's just there's a lot of weird stuff on paper that you're like, man, this is kind of challenging. But it just comes down to, like, if they're better this year, they're healthy, they're better on defense, they're just a better football team, none of that stuff matters. Because we talk Tampa Bay, any of these games, they're good enough to compete with anybody if they're healthy. I believe that.
On paper, that's 100% true.
Rob, I agree with you. The most stifling thing that I see on this schedule is where our bye weeks, where our away games are at.
Yeah.
That is the thing that really stands out the most to me. It's not just the opponents that we're facing. It's where you're facing these opponents at. You have to play at Tampa. You have to play in LA. You got to play in New England. You got to play in Minnesota, in Kansas City. These are not easy plays. And then freaking throw the Saints on there. Golly. Yeah. I mean, these are the most, when you think about the most difficult places to play in the NFL, these are the teams that you talk about. These are the cities that you talk about. So these guys, the Cowboys, they got to figure it out now. Obviously, we have a long way to go, but though just atmosphere and environment alone, those are some of the most difficult places to play in the NFL.
Yeah, it's a big part of the conversation, and I think we'll have plenty of that conversation throughout the year. But when we come back here on Talkin' Cowboys, OTAs, what are the expectations around Mike McCarthy's squad as they do point their compass in the direction of Tampa Bay on the road to start the season? When we return on Talkin' Cowboys, presented by Geico.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
New Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. You deserve it.
I do deserve that.
You deserve decadent flavor without sugar. And a day at the beach without sand getting everywhere. And a relaxing bath that your children don't interrupt.
I deserve all that?
It's really just a visual metaphor for Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Everything you want, nothing you don't.
A visual metaphor on the radio. I do deserve that.
Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. The zero you deserve is finally here.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with United Ag and Turf. Cooler weather makes it easier to work outdoors, and we can make it even easier. With our Buckaroo package that features a 3025E 25 horsepower tractor with a loader, rotary cutter, box blade, and a trailer for $295 per month. And the price you see is the price you'll pay. No surprises. What could be easier?
Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com. Offer ends February 1st, 2021. Restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
Now let's get to work.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Get the ultimate fan experience for the ultimate Cowboy fan. Join Dallas Cowboys United, presented by Globe Life. Starting at just $20. Join now and get your exclusive fan pack and member benefits. Visit DallasCowboys.com/United for details. Hello. Strange.
I almost like that better than the other thing we've been talking about that we can't legally talk about at this point.
We cannot.
No, but I like that. That was good. Well done, Heckma Harrison.
Thank you.
Final segment here of Talkin Cowboys, presented by Geico from Inside the Star in Frisco. Rob Phillips, Heckma Harrison, Isaiah Stanback, who is remote today. Congratulations,
in paradise,
sir. Yeah, my goodness.
So
I'm Kyle
jealous.
Yeomans, and OTAs start today. Rob, what are the what do the weeks ahead look like for the Cowboys? Because they're on the field today. It'll be inside the Ford Center. But, I mean, a lot of practice, a lot of lead in here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so they've got 6 OTAs scheduled over the next 3 weeks, including, 3 this week? Or maybe is it 2? It's 2 this week. 2 this week, 2 next week, 2 the week after, followed by the mandatory mini camp with everybody June 8th through the 10th. And, coaches can have up to 10 OTAs on their schedule. They've only got 6, and I think they still have the option to add more, but I think it probably comes down to the fact of it's a longer camp coming up, longer preseason, and this is a way, hopefully they get all their work in, Isaiah, and then give them a nice break till we don't know the exact dates for training camp, but usually if you subtract 2 weeks from that August 5th opener in Canton, they're going to camp pretty early. So that's why they've only got 6. A little different by Mike McCarthy there.
So, Isaiah, just from a player standpoint, how much of a difference would that make, taking 4 practices out of the equation? I mean, it may not end up being 4 full practices. It could end up being just 3 or 2 that they don't end up using because, like Rob said, they can still add on some more OTAs. But how much of a difference does that make, especially when the preseason's on the horizon?
It's huge. It's huge, at least from the player standpoint, because you start talking about adding that Hall of Fame preseason game in there, that adds on to your schedule. Imagine if you're on the roster. Imagine if you're like on the edge guys, right? Call it, like somebody like myself. Some of the years I was playing on the edge guy, and all of a sudden they throw an extra game on your preseason schedule. So now you're playing not only your 17 regular season games, but you're playing all those preseason games. Oh, and then you factor in another 5 weeks of camp or whatever it is. It's a lot, man. Any opportunity that coaches have to minimize your ability to get injured, I think it's a smart move on the behalf of the coaches. They obviously have to get their work in. They have to get their install in. They need to get their continuity. All these things need to take place. However, whenever you can ease the players' minds in terms of their physical well-being and their mental well-being, I think it's a plus for not only the individual but also the team.
Yeah, you started to see the mentality change with head coaches and organizations just not grinding their guys in the offseason. I think you talked about how offseason OTAs used to be so much different. You and Isaiah were having a conversation about that. These used to be full pads and guys going at it.
And rookie camp, too.
Rookie
camp. 2 practices in the heat for rookie camp and guys throwing up and stuff. No more of that.
So, like Isaiah says, there's some guy that's going to play all 22 of these games, preseason and regular season, and God hoping, playoff run as well. But, that's a lot of football games to be played. And I know that football teams are getting into the analytics of it to keep guys healthy. And I just think that's just another part of it from this organization, just to say, look, I know we can have 10. Let's pull back and just have 6.
What are some of the goals, Rob, of this team throughout OTAs to try and find footing into what will be a longer training camp?
Besides health, and you guys just hit on that, you just don't want to get anybody hurt. Sean Lee tearing his ACL in 2014, I think was the first mini camp or OTA. Just stay healthy. That's why you're going to see guys coming off of major injuries probably be scaled back. I mean, I'm interested to see how much Dak does, and other guys too. Blake Jarwin, the tackles, Lyle and Tyron, guys like that. But aside from just, making sure guys stay healthy and ready for training camp, just the installation part of it, just having, getting a lot of the install done. So by the time you get to training camp, it's basically in, and you're just fine tuning things. And there are some competitive parts of the OTAs, but that's not as important as when you get to camp and the pads come on.
Isaiah?
No, I think Rob just hit on it. It's more so than anything, OTAs, the coaches, first of all, the coaches are coaches, right? They want to coach. They want to be on the field. They don't want to be in the classroom. They want to see their guys, right? Just imagine you have all these, I think we talked about in the past, you have all these toys that you got for Christmas, and all of a sudden you just want to put them on the table and start playing around with them, right? And that's what these coaches want to do. They want to put their guys together. You know, Coach Quinn, all the talk about him, trust me, he's one of the most energetic guys in his whole entire organization aside from Fossil, right? He wants to get out there and run around with his guys. He wants to put his guys in position for them to be successful. Okay, this is what our idea as a whole defense thinks about where you can play. But hey, what if I take you and I put you out here, or I put you down here on the line of scrimmage, right? What does that look like, right? And they just want to go out here and just mess around with different schemes so that when they get to camp, it's no longer experimentation, right? They're simply just plugging and playing where they know that you can handle.
And everything that Isaiah said are things that you couldn't do in a virtual setting.
Right.
You couldn't do that in a virtual setting. And so as an evaluator, you want to be hands-on. And so having this opportunity to have an OTA to be able to plug and play and put guys in different sets in your scheme to see how they operate is definitely what Quinn wants to do. I'm sure what Kellen Moore wants to do, knowing that he'll have a full season with CD and Dak and also with Jarwin, who went down the first game of the season. Yes, but you're right. The health it's all about that. And if they have learned anything from implementation from the virtual part, I think that would make it easier for them to send guys home with certain things, get homework out so you can see, how much of these guys are actually retaining what they're learning in a classroom setting. And so, this is just a new NFL, man, where things are virtual and teams are having to just kind of dance around the idea of not having to put your hands on guys. Even, look, COVID still is here. So with it, I think those are some of the precautions that they're having to wade through.
Gosh, that makes me so excited thinking about the different combinations that these coaches will get to work around with. Yeah. That they didn't last year. That just gets me. That makes me so much happier to have these things in person as opposed to being virtual. And plus, we've already seen, like you said about playing the toys, or I guess Isaiah said it about playing with your toys and wanting to kind of mix and match and put it all together. We saw the opening of the first present, that was rookie minicamp, and that was seeing the rookies out on the field. And hey, where could this guy go? Where is Micah Parsons going to play in this defense? Where is Odigizua going to play on the defensive line? There's so many different ways that you could play around with it, and then guess what? You get to add them in with the veterans. Yeah. And that's something that they didn't get to do last year, which I think is going to benefit Dan Quinn. It's going to benefit this entire defense, and especially on the offensive side of the football, just getting those guys back. So that brings me back to this question, Rob. You mentioned the offensive tackles and how intrigued you are to see what their workload's going to be like. Do you have any kind of expectation as to what kind of work they'll see?
I just know from history and the way they have plans for guys who had season-ending injuries the year before. Isaiah knows this well. The staff points to training camp. They just. I'm very curious. I know Mike McCarthy was asked specifically about Dak recently, and he said, he'll do most things. What is most things? Is he going to take a bunch of team reps, or is he just kind of continue his rehab plan and maybe do some individual stuff and get out there a little bit and get ready for Oxnard if we're going to Oxnard officially, and worry about that. That's kind of what I would anticipate for guys that we just talked about. Is not a full go type thing. Let's wait till we get to late July, whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, don't want any mishaps or boo-boos with that ankle.
No,
sit over there on the golf cart if you can. And they won't do that. But still, for all of these guys, it's just pivotal. And especially at Tyron Smith. Limiting him with the neck and making sure that he gets back. Lael with the hip, that's important. We saw how those guys being down, how it affects us. But as far as my expectation for the guys in OTAs, I just want to see this linebacker group. I want to see how these guys operate together. Obviously, we won't see anything. Maybe we'll see something with scheme and how they're used, who's going to be at the mic and who's going to be at the wheel. Because I think it's very ironic how this whole thing with Micah Parsons has been flipped to be a Micah versus Jalen instead of Micah and Jalen. How they both can be used together in concert to make this defense better.
Jerry mentioned, he said compatible with the rookie camp when he was asked that very question. So in Jerry's mind, they can play them together because Parsons, Swiss Army knife kind of thing, Yeah. We'll see.
Isaiah?
Yeah, I think you guys already hit on it. In terms of the guys getting through this thing healthy, in terms of expectations of guys that are coming off of season-ending injuries, I don't foresee them doing many team drills. So when you hear them kind of be broad in their statements, referring to, they'll do most things. Well, most things in OTAs happen to be, on with just your offensive team, just special teams doing the cover drills, or defense doing things by themselves. Very seldom do you come together and go against each other competitively. And when they do those things, you will not see Dak in there. When they do those things where they're getting hands-on and getting a little bit down and dirty, you will not see Lyle. You will not see any of those guys out there. So trust and believe that this training staff is going to do everything possible to get these guys to training camp. It's inevitable whenever injuries do occur. You can't prevent everything, but you control what you can control. In terms of what I'm excited to see, I'm excited to see, I'm excited to see these young guys come in and get plugged in. What's Dan Quinn going to do? How is, Kellen Moore going to facilitate this offense with all his resources that he has at his hands now, at his disposal? And what is Coach Fossil going to do? Where are these guys going to get in and fit in at on the special teams? Because that's such an important portion of this game. So many people throw it to the wayside, but you have two high-energy coaches now in Fossil and Quinn that are going to feed off each other. How's it all going to piece up together? So I'm excited.
Man, health is the number one priority.
Yep.
Versatility from the coaching staffs to kind of put your players in the right position to be successful. That's kind of the theme going into OTAs, which do begin today at the Star in Frisco. But that's going to do it for us here on Talkin Cowboys. So glad you've been with us here over the last hour. Hope you learned something. Hope you had a little bit of fun with us along the way. For Isaiah Stanback, who is living his best life right now. For Scott Purcell, Chris Beam in the back. For Rob Phillips, Heckma Harrison, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. We'll see you next Monday here on Talkin Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?